Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real World Blockchain Podcast, brought to you by Web3 Enabler, the first and only Web3 payment solution in Salesforce, the world's #1 CRM. Just as a reminder, what we're going to talk about here is not an investment advice nor a life advice. So, as always, guys, we encourage you to do your own research and please share what you have learned in the comments. Today, my partner in crime is Niles Lee Smith. He has joined Web3 Enabler to help lead marketing and business development. Our blockchain connoisseur, if you please. Hi, Niles. Nice to have you here.
I got to here. I'm doing well. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. So today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk stablecoins. We're going to talk about a new blockchain assessment tool, basically dedicated to stablecoins, and a few other things that you will discover. So let's dive right in. First of all, for the people who don't know about what we're talking about when we talk about stablecoins, well, this is basically a cryptocurrency designed to maintain a stable value pegged to a one-to-one relationship with an asset, or more commonly a fiat currency. So there are more than 100 stable coins available today. There are many companies, teams, and projects behind each of them. So that's quite a few companies to talk about. But for the perspective, the top three stable coins are all pegged to the US dollar, and they are accounting for over how much is it? Over the $130 billion.
120 billion.
How much?
$120 billion.
Okay, so that's about 90% of the total stablecoin market cap at the moment. Most of it is basically pegged to the US dollar, but a few other currencies are pegged to the Chinese yuan, the Mexican peso, and the European euro, and so on. So, who's the leader these days?
Right now it's Tether.
Tether, so
Yeah.
owned by the Hong Kong-based iFinix Inc. So they own.
Yeah, you might know them because they also own Bitfinex, which is a cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah. So.
And as you're saying, like Tether is pretty synonymous with the stable coins right now pegged to the US dollar. When people are talking about Tether, they're talking about the token that they're issuing that is with the dollar.
Yeah, so I think Tether holds something like 70% of the stablecoin market share. So
yes, massive.
Which means that when people are telling you, "Oh, please send me some USDT," it's very likely that in the future some people keep saying USDT, even though there are other cryptocurrencies. The brand recognition makes it a common name. That's quite cool. Just like what we have in many countries for many objects that we use in our daily lives. And so, can you give us a few other large issuers like number 2 and 3? Who are these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. The other big issuer is Circle. They're US based, but they only account for about 20% of the stablecoin market share, which is vastly smaller than what we were just talking about with Tether.
Of course.
And they only issue US dollar and euro pegged stablecoins compared to Tether, which also issues, as you were mentioning, like the yuan, the Mexican peso, the euro, and even something that's backed or pegged to the ounce of gold.
Okay.
But everything, it seems like, is just denominated and is dollarized right now with these stablecoins.
All right. And so I believe the third largest issuer in the world is DAI, right? DAI.
That's right.
And I think the issue. What's the difference with them? They have a special. They have a special technical difference that makes them a bit different in nature. Can you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. MakerDAO issues DAI natively on blockchains through a smart contract governed by MakerDAO or Maker token holders. And what makes them different is that these assets that are backing their stablecoin DAI are blockchain native tokens, such as Ether. And what's interesting about them is that they are the first decentralized organization to issue a stablecoin that is able to actually represent a US dollar on chain without a corporation or a company behind them that is then holding off-chain assets such as treasuries.
So that's quite a prowess indeed, especially when you see that this DAO is basically competing. This decentralized autonomous organization is competing with two heavy hitters held by
Absolutely.
huge companies. And so, for the people who are listening to us and who are not familiar with stable coins, there are basically two types of stable coins: the centralized ones and the algorithmic ones. So, all the three stable coins, stablecoin issuers we were talking about, they are issuing collateralized coins. So, it's basically pegged to the dollar with an asset or a security pledged to be sold in exchange for the stable coin. So there is basically an engagement, a legal engagement to keep the target at at a one-to-one relationship. And some of the people are looking for the holy grail, an algorithmic stable coin, basically to keep the target peg using a programmatic algorithm. This is the holy grail of stable coin, if you please, but there are many projects attempting to bring this goal or this idea to fruition, but at the moment it's not that great in terms of technology. And okay, Niles, please give our listeners some pain. Which
Oh man,
give us one
everyone's
example.
gonna remember Terra Luna.
Okay, Terra
Terra
Luna.
Luna
Okay,
and TUSD.
okay. So Terra Luna.
Last
Okay,
year, that was pretty painful.
how much? How much did they evaporate
I believe it was over $150 billion was completely wiped out
last
in
year?
3 days.
In three. Oh,
When, yeah, yeah, when the algorithm failed. Well, actually, it's funny because the algorithm worked exactly how it's supposed to work. It just
crooks.
so happens that all the value just went down the drain and was known as a death spiral, where the collateralization of the Luna token lost value, depegged TUSD, and then all of a sudden,
Oh, good
everything
God.
is worthless.
You know. I read that it evaporated in 3 days, but I think out of pain, out of spite, I basically became amnesiac, oblivious to it. But yes, basically every time you want to talk about algorithmic stablecoin, this topic will bring a bit of pain in the hearts of the poor crypto investors who invested in Terra Luna or other things, and quite a lot of pain also in the head of the professionals of the blockchain sector who are trying to convince other businesses.
Absolutely. Yeah, the collapse of Terra Luna brought down some really big players. And I would just like to actually correct myself where it was actually the depegging of TUSD that then brought down the downfall of Terra as a whole. And right now we're actually looking at Do Kwon right now in prison,
Yes, of course.
if you please, in Montenegro and looking to be extradited to the US, and we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and that's basically a heavy hit for the sector. So it's a good thing that we're taking care of the bad actors, and a good thing that we're
Absolutely.
taking care of the crooks. The question is the industry recovering for that? At the moment, it seems to be recovering, but every time there's a crook and there's one of these scandals, it's not good for the industry. It's basically not great to attract other businesses who want solid use cases and solid solutions. So I think it's quite a good thing if the guy goes to
Centralization.
jail.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like these big names, these catastrophic events really pull away from the technological solutions that we're bringing into different industries. And this is something that, like, hopefully now that we've been able to clean this up, we can start focusing on the good things that blockchain and crypto could bring to the world.
Yeah. So people, be careful when you invest, but don't freak out when you see
Always.
stable coins. There are genuinely great projects, quite interesting. And of course, for the people of here who are using PayPal, you can use the PYUSD, which is quite a solid, a solid
As a
technology.
shout out to our friends over at PayPal.
Yeah. So next
Yeah,
topic
it's funny
then.
you say that
Yeah.
because I think that S&P 5 or the S&P Global has just launched
Yeah,
something.
exactly. You basically gave me the transition, and we were talking about crooks and stable coins. So how could we assess the strength of a stable coin, or at least let's say assess its stability, the level of trust we should have. Well, the
Hopefully, someone else can do it for us.
yeah, S&P Global has basically done that. So their approach is basically giving points. So every time ranking a few metrics, just like liquidation mechanisms or secondary ones, like the type of technology, the third-party dependencies, the legal and regulatory framework. Every time they're giving a score of 1 when it means a very strong score, and a score of 5 when it means very weak. So yes, it goes this way. It's not like the stars on Google; it's the other way around. And so the result is an average, and the stablecoin stability assessment gives a final score on a scale from 1 to 5. So 1 is the best and 5 is the weakest. Interestingly, they're quite demanding and quite rough with stablecoins. So we've been talking about USDC earlier and Circle. Well,
I would imagine that they got a rating of 1, the very strongest, right?
well, actually, almost, but no, they got a rating of 2, which means strong, but not very strong. Which means
But they got a rating of 1.
nobody got that, which means that there's room for improvement. So that's good. That's going. If this assessment tool becomes a framework, something that becomes a standard, that's going to push, to drive the stablecoin issuers to be even more rigorous. Nobody was average with a score of 3, which meant just adequate. But USDT issued by Tether and the DAI that we talked about received a score of 4, which meant constrained. So that's that. And a few others received a score of 5, which meant weak. So they did that on only 8 stable coins. You can look at the link in the description of this podcast. But it should be noted that even though DAI had received a score of 4, it's interesting because they are still blockchain native, so that they're not issued by a centralized company. So that's still quite a feat to have been selected by that for those of our listeners who are interested in the topic of genuinely decentralized ideas. And so, on the other hand, the other side of the spectrum, there are entities trying to use centralized currencies and to use this stack of stable coins in order to fuel their payment industry. And one of the huge hitters that announced that this week was the Deutsche Bank, so a German bank, multinational, and they're basically launching something based on the European euro. When was that already, Niles?
I believe it was just last Wednesday
Yeah, so December.
that they announced. Yep.
Oh, yes.
And it'll be early next year that they'll be forming the All Unity company with partnerships of Flow Trader and Galaxy. And then looking at maybe like 12 to 18 months after that, with the approval of BaFin, the Germany's financial supervisory authority, we'll be seeing this stablecoin.
And so I have a question here. So not going too deep into geopolitics, but do you think this will challenge the US dollar hegemony of stablecoins? Not necessarily, not in a day, but maybe over time. Do you think the centralized euro, not a CBDC, but basically a centrally emitted stable coin, could do that?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And what's interesting right now is that the top 10 stable coins by market cap, 8 of those are denominated in US dollars. 9 and 10 are pegged to announced gold. The euro is not really in play right now. So, and is this something that is going to be able to launch the euro into the blockchain stratosphere?
Well, just because of the reputation of the Deutsche Bank, which is nothing.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
One of the biggest economies.
Where the euro is already the second largest currency reserves, foreign currency reserves, and like, why aren't we seeing more transactions done in euros?
Well,
right now, the vast majority of trading pools are done with your token and then the US dollar.
Ah.
And
Mm.
let's see if there's going to be something where our friends over in Europe and are going to start to be able to actually buy something like using their own native currency denomination.
There's a saying we say that in Europe. Basically, when there's a new technology, the US makes a business out of it, China makes a counterfeit copy out of it, and Europe makes a regulation out of it. And I think that's quite the case here. Perhaps not with China, but at least it's quite true for Europe. The regulatory framework of the cryptocurrencies is always a bit late compared to what's happening in Northern America, and consequence of that, the largest issuer of the euro-dominated stablecoins is Stasis, and they have the EURS token, and they're accounting for a bit more than $130 million, which means a thousandth of the whole market. So that's not that huge, but that's interesting because that means that there's competition, and that means that huge banks in Europe are taking care of that, and basically every state in Europe has basically the GDP of the equivalent, the same order of magnitude of as the GDP of a US state. So if the whole European Union is trying to have its own stable coin, we might have something interesting here. But that shows that there's a market for payment solutions and stable coins, indeed.
And what's also really interesting is that Circle, the second largest euro denominated stablecoin, is only half that market cap. And Tether, which is even smaller than that with their issuance of a euro pegged stablecoin, has 3 times the trading volume. So it's not that like people aren't using this.
Okay, so
it's just a matter of like who is choosing to use which companies issued stablecoin. And it's interesting that, as you mentioned, like Stellaris, like they're not a big player right now as far as the market cap with like their own issuances, but they're dominating the euros. But the actual trading is done through Tether.
Yeah. So these okay. So maybe that euro pegged stable coin is not going to challenge the US dollar pegged stable coins in a very near future, but it's already probably going to challenge all the other euro issuers, the euro pegged issuers. Maybe these guys are going to be challenged by something new, because that's a seal of credibility to have one of the biggest European banks.
Absolutely, and like maybe we're gonna just see more people like paying with this, just on chain, and bringing in a completely new aspect that we're not necessarily seeing. Where with like if you're gonna go and have tethers and like USDC locked up in smart contracts, maybe as an actual vendor,
wonderful,
pay me in euros, and this is something that allows me to actually do my business in something that I trust, which I think brings us to what's Coinbase doing.
The good thing is Coinbase is basically bringing its firepower to small payments, large. They're basically trying to take on large international wire companies, and the small payment apps like Western Unions, or the little apps that we have to share the bill and split it after eating in a restaurant. I've even seen that, and if you guys look at our mutual knowledge podcast, Samuel Davidova, representative of Liberland in Georgia, was basically telling us that many grandmothers are using payment apps to pay for their coffee in Georgia in Bitcoin. So that's cool. That means that if your grandma is using it, it means that it's already becoming mainstream. And it's interesting because Coinbase, they have that wallet, which is already available in 170 countries or something, like 20 languages. And now they're basically using a way to to send money much more easily. And I think they can send money in any platform that they can share link with. So that means WhatsApp and Telegram and so on. And what do you think about that yourself? I love it myself. That's something that I find quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like as you were saying, that's something that I've used those apps myself. What I find really interesting is now it's going to be able to do cross border, as you mentioned, of 170 countries. And that's massive. And there's going to be different ways through whether or not you're going to be doing payments on Base, which is the Coinbase rollup built on the Optimism stack. They've included Polygon, Arbitrum, and Avalanche
Wow.
with zero fees.
Okay. That's hot.
And they want to play with everybody. It's not something where they're just like creating their own little garden that you have to be trading within your own app. Like, I don't know if you are familiar with like Venmo or
Yes, of course.
like Cash App and all that, where you have to stay within that single application in order to get those benefits of not paying anything when you're sending for like money. But now you got to choose your chain and you're able to get near instant settlement.
And honestly, I've seen so many. I have had so many issues traveling, and even traveling for the sake of Web3 Enabler, our payment solution, which is more what we're doing here at Web3 Enabler is more like a B2B payment solution. But basically, the B2B payment solutions are bringing the same advantage. People are struggling when they have to have a payment in a foreign country. It's like cryptocurrencies is the only tech that you can use to get a payment from Indonesia to Somalia or from Somalia to Canada in a minute at 9 p.m. on a Sunday evening, and that's pretty cool. I love it. So the fact that they're doing this with, and I think the fact they're doing this with no fees is really a huge marketing stunt, because that means that they have bigger fish to fry than just taking the fees at the moment. They're probably going to re-implement fees in a few years or months if it grows quickly. But in the meantime, that means that everyone is going to use that in order to. So they're going to do that in order to invade the market and to conquer, which is ruthless and marketingly sound.
I mean, right now I'm rooting for them. I think that anything that can bring somebody on chain is good right now.
All right, I think that's all for today. So thank you everyone for listening to this Real World Blockchain podcast brought to you by Web3 Enabler, where you can hear hot news about the crypto payment industry. So follow us. I am Gauthier, and Niles here will be joining me as a co-host on this weekly Real World Blockchain podcast. And Niles, any last word?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very glad to join and bring of all our listeners news that they can use.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. You can join our community Twitter, Discord, Telegram, and follow us on other channels. Like, share, subscribe. You guys know the drill. See you next week.